Hi everyone, and welcome to another video from Class 47 Peter. Now before I go into this video, I should quickly point out that this is going to be quite a long video. I'm not going to be going straight into this video, no. I'm going to be doing a detailed talk about it first before I get into it. So if you want to, then please by all means go ahead and skip the video to a point where you want to watch it. Feel free to do that, I'm not going to stop you. But I don't want to hear people complaining in the comments box about how long the video is or whatever, because you can skip the video at the end of the day. It's as simple as that. But anyway, enough about that, let's get into the video. Okay, now today's video is going to be something a little bit different from the norm, because in today's video it's going to be me showing you a project that I have been planning to do for a little while, which if you've been on Twitter and the Facebook page you will know about this, but for those of you that don't, let me explain. As you've seen in this video, it's called Project Pannier, where I take a Bachmann 5700 Pannier tank and I repaint it into a different livery, and I'll also be doing a few other little things on the model as well. Now this is going to be done in the same style as I did the video on improving the factory weathered locomotives and detailing up the Airfix auto coach, but those were not really considered projects by me. You could say that in some ways, but I don't really consider those as projects, to be honest. So this is going to be done in the same style. I should point out, however, at this point, that this video is not going to be a how-to video. This is going to be a video showing you how I am going about doing it. There's no right or wrong way of doing things in this hobby. There's no right or wrong thing to use. We all do things differently and we all use different products, because at the end of the day, if we all used the same thing and did everything the same way as others, then this hobby would be boring. So I'm just want you to bear that in mind, that this is not going to be a how-to video and this is going to be the stuff I'm using. There's more than one way that you can do this, and there's loads of other things you can use out there, but this is the stuff that I'm going to be using, and this is how I'm going to be doing it. I should also point out at this point that the Pannier tank I have here is not a model that I already had in my collection. This is one that I've been out and bought new. In fact, you've seen this Pannier in the video where I double-headed it with my other BR Pannier 7739, which I thought I would do a video on that, double-heading with 7739, before it gets repainted, because I thought that would be pretty cool to do, and it was too good to miss of an opportunity. Now the livery I'm going to be repainting this into is NCB green, which is the livery I've chosen to do. And the reason I've gone for a BR black livery Pannier to repaint is because it's going to be the most appropriate one to use, simply because it has the locomotive number plate on the smokebox door. Because if you look at the Panniers in NCB green in real life, they had the number plate on the smokebox door when wearing that livery. So if you was to get a GWR green livery version and repaint it into NCB green, which stands for National Coal Board, by the way, you don't really need to know that, but I'm going to tell you anyway. But if you was to get a GWR green Pannier and repaint it into this livery, it wouldn't be strictly accurate. But then you could say, well, you could get a etched smokebox door number plate from Fox Transfers, but then again that would cost a little bit more money, so I'd rather get a model that already has the smokebox door number plate on the smokebox instead of just getting one that doesn't have one and then buying one later, because there isn't really much point in that, I feel. It's better to get one that already has one on. Another thing I'm going to point out is that the repaint is not going to be done using an airbrush. There's not going to be any airbrushing involved, and yes, I have said airbrushing, not hairbrushing, before someone comes along in the comments box and tells me that I've pronounced it wrong and that I can't read. I have pronounced that correctly. So there's not going to be any airbrushing involved in this video. The repaint is going to be done entirely by hand. Now, I know at this point there are going to be people in armchairs that are going to think, well, you can't do it like that. Well, I'm going to prove it to you in this video that you can, and also I want to show you something. You've all seen this model before, but this is a Bachmann GWR Mogul that I have repainted into the Rod khaki livery. which Bachmann never produced a mogul in this livery, so I went and repainted one myself. And this has been painted entirely by hand. And just look at that. I am well happy with this. I mean, I think that's come out rather superbly, in my opinion. And I'm very pleased with how this has turned out. Just as good as airbrushing, in my opinion, this. So, if I can paint this mogul by hand into a different livery, then I can do the same for this pannier. So I've already shown there that you can repaint models by hand using a brush. But anyway, I think I've done enough talking for now. Let's crack on with the video. But before we do, I'm going to show you the things I'm going to be using. So first of all, there's the model itself, of course. I'm also going to be using a screwdriver to take the body off by undoing the screws. And I would recommend as well that you use either a sealed bag or a tub like this to put the screws into. And the reason why I'm using a tub is because I have a gravelled floor, and so if I drop the screws on the floor, they'll never be seen again and they'll be as lost as Atlantis. So that's the reason why I've got this tub here to put the screws into, without them dropping on the floor, basically. Also, I'm going to be using transfers from Fox Transfers. Now these are actually worth talking about, because whilst the numbers are printed in the same size for the locomotive, the NCB lettering is not. I mean, either of these two sizes here, they are a bit big to use on the model, to be honest with you. I mean, I could use, well, these are too big anyway. I could have used one of those there and the numbers, but then you'd end up with the lettering that's bigger than the numbers. And although that would look a bit interesting to see the numbers smaller than the lettering, if you looked at the panniers in this livery, in reality, both the lettering and the numbers were the same size. And because Fox Transfers have not printed any lettering in a small size, I have found a way to overcome that. And I've gone and printed some off on the computer, as you can see, which I've kept them into this sealed bag here. Now, I should point out that these are not transfers. I haven't got the equipment to make my own transfers, and I tried doing it in the past and it didn't work. So the only way I can have the lettering and the numbers the same size is I'm going to be using the numbers, these ones just here, from the transfer sheet, but I will not be using the lettering from this sheet. I could use them for something else in the future, but not on this model. So I'm going to be using these instead, which I've printed off, which I've printed out on paper, cut them out, and I'm going to PVA glue them on. We're also going to be using masking tape to mask off areas that don't need to be painted, and I'm using Pannier masking tape, which is the best stuff to use. I have tried using normal masking tape in the past and it's not really worked very well. I have used the Pannier masking tape in the past for things like this and it works perfectly, so that is why I'm going to be using the Pannier masking tape. We're also going to be needing a paintbrush. Okay, perhaps not this one. I mean, it looks nice and it will taste nice, but it's not really suitable for painting with. We're going to need something that is suitable to paint with. There we go, this is more like it. There's 4 brushes in this pack, but well, it doesn't matter. And these are the excellent Humbrol detail brushes. Do recommend you get them. Also, we're going to be using this, which is a first time use for me. Just taking off the little price tag there. This is Humbrol Mascol, and basically it's a sort of similar thing to masking tape, basically only in liquid form. So basically what you do with this is, it's basically used for, if you have an area that's difficult to get masking tape into to protect, or an area that, let's say, have to use a small piece of masking tape to cover up, you can just use this instead, because you can put this on an area that you don't want paint to get on, which will protect the paint. Then you can use it for airbrushing and hand brushing, which is what I'm going to be doing, and it will protect the areas that you don't want to get paint on. And then once you've done it, you just simply peel it off, and the area that you wanted to keep without getting paint on it will be preserved. And so I'll definitely be using this, and I'm looking forward to doing so. And then there's also the all-important paint. Now this is made by a company I've never bought from before or used either. It's Model Master, and this is pale green. It does need to be mixed up, but this is the correct colour to use for painting a pannier into NCB green. And I know this because I did some colour matching on the internet. It took an age to do, but when I stumbled across this paint and colour matched it on the computer, I knew instantly that it was the right one to use, and so I went and bought it. It was £1.60, something like that, which is quite cheap. And it's better to get the correct paint rather than just buy a random green colour, because it will look better. So these items, amongst a few other things that I shall be using for this project, there is going to be quite a lot of stuff being used, but that's what happens when you do a project like this. You do end up using a lot of stuff, and bearing in mind, most of this stuff I'm going to be using is actually stuff I've bought new. So it does cost quite a bit, but it doesn't matter, because it's all part of the fun in this project. Right, well, with that said and done, I think it's now time to start the project. Right, so the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to remove the body from the chassis, and that's where this screwdriver comes in. Right, I've had to get a different screwdriver because, me being me, I picked the wrong one, and so I couldn't get the screws out. Right, I thought that was going to be easy as 1, 2, 3, but it wasn't. You know, that body was quite nice and snug on the chassis. But anyway, so I've separated the chassis now from the body. And so I'm going to put the chassis to one side, because that's not going to really be the main focus of this project. The tub with all the screws in, that can go to one side. They're nice and safe in that tub. And so now we can focus on the body. Now the next thing we're going to do is concerning the glazing in the cab windows. Now normally for things like this, people would normally take out the glazing and put them back in again when repainting a model. But in this case I'm not going to be doing that, because it would be a case of, because these glazing are glued in the windows, it would be a case of breaking the glue to get them out and then gluing them back in again. And I don't fancy doing that. So this is where the Humbrol Mascol comes in, because you can use it to mask off things like this, as I said before. I mean, you could use masking tape, but it would be a little bit tricky to do. You'd have to cut out very small pieces to mask them off. So this is where you can use the Humbrol Mascol, because like I said earlier, it's a liquid substance that you can use for things like this. And you just simply put it on, and then when it's dry, you just simply peel it off again, and it will have preserved the part that you want to protect. And so that's what I'll be doing here. Originally I was going to use a cocktail stick, but that's not going to happen. Well, at least not to try and mask off the windows anyway. So I'm going to use one of the brushes. I'm also going to try and preserve the gold trim around the windows here. I mean, I could try and repaint it again, but it probably won't come out as fine as it does on here, so I'm going to try and preserve those as well. Right, the mascot's now been put on the windows, as you can see. And so when it dries, it will come out as a dark blue colour. So all we're going to do now is simply let the mascot dry. We cannot rush this. Right, well the mascot is now dry, as you can see. It might not look like it on camera, but it has actually gone a darker blue. In fact, actually, if I lift it up there, you can just about see in this light that it is darker. That mark there, by the way, just there, that has technically still been protected. It might not look like that, but it has, because it has had more than one layer on it. But the next step we need to do now is to mask off parts of the body where we don't want paint to get on. And this is where the good old Pannier masking tape comes in. You can get a dispenser for these, but I prefer using them without the dispenser, to be honest with you. Right, so the body is being masked off. I wasn't going to show you me doing all of it, because it would get a bit boring. But it has all been masked off. I have even used some mascol in some places, such as that bit there where the chimney is, which is still drying. I've even put mascol on the coal load because I didn't want to get paint on that. And also mascol has gone on the buffer beam there, because I couldn't get any masking tape there. So that's what's good about using the mascol. Apart from that though, everywhere else has been masked off with tape, even the smoke box door. So the next stage is to do the painting. Now to do this, you only need a little amount on your brush to paint it. So only a very small amount at a time on your brush. You don't want a great big dollop on your brush and just painting all over it, because that will look too messy and not right. Okay, so the painting is pretty much now done. You will not believe how many layers I've used. I have used more than one coat, and so just got to let it dry now. And the masking tape has worked quite well, but there will be a few touch-ups though that will need to be done. But other than that, it's looking pretty damn good so far. I will need to use the paint thinner as well at some point. Well, brush cleaner I should say rather, which you can use to rub off paint where you don't want it. For example, up at the top there and there. But it doesn't really matter about that much now, to be honest with you. I have also gone and used 2 brushes as well in the process, and I've used a few cotton buds as well. But anyway, so I've got to clean these brushes out, let the paint dry, then we'll peel away the masking tape, and then we'll see what needs to be touched up, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, so the paint is now dry. Just showing you all around the model. So the next thing to do now is to remove the masking tape and the mask oil that's been used. So overall, I'm so far very impressed with how this has turned out, and rather pleased as well. But as I've said before, some touch-ups will still need to be done. So I'll be doing that off camera. Right, so I have made some touch-ups to the body. I did use the brush cleaner, but I will be honest, I did also end up using this Revel Matte Black for some areas at least anyway. So I've been going round off camera and repainting these black bits. Paint's still drying, but I've been repainting them because the Revel Matte Black paint I've been using is a tad lighter than the black already used on the model, so I've basically just gone round and painted those bits up. So I think that's pretty much it for the painting now, to be honest. The next thing to do now is to put the transfers on. Right, before I go into the transfers, I want to talk about these here. The NCB lettering, which I've printed off in 2 sizes. As you can see, there is actually one left in the bag as a spare. Now, what I need to do with these, I need to sort them out, which ones I'm going to use and which is the correct size. Because I'm going to be using, as I've said before, these numbers here. So I need to sort out which of these is going to be the right size to go with those numbers. Right, so I've now placed these two by the numbers, just to see which is the correct size. And in doing so, it's clear that that one there is the correct size to use. Because this one here, if you look at it, you can just about see that that is a bit too big to use. So I shall be using this size of the NCB lettering to do. Right, now I'm going to sort out the transfers, and to do this I'm going to take them off using a scalpel. Or a hobby knife, as it says on the box, which has a load of them. Now I do need to be very careful when it comes to using these transfers, because you only get 4 of each number, so I can't really afford to make a mistake with this. So that little number 5 has now been cut out, and so I now attend to the others, which I'm not going to show you doing on camera, as I just said, because that would get a bit boring me doing them all of them. It's pretty much going to be the same thing I'm going to do with just cutting out the one, to be honest. Right, so I've now put some more water into the saucer, and so we're now going to place the transfers in them. The warm water will not last, it will soon go cold. But it's to help the glue on it, basically. Just simply does something to the glue, it dissolves it or something like that. Not really a massive expert on transfers, to be honest. You can use a container or a bowl, but I'm using a saucer for this. I'm just gently sliding them onto the water. Slightly crude doing it, I know, but hey ho. Don't really want to rush this. So I'm going to leave that for a while. Then we'll come back and then we'll place them onto the model. Right, the transfers are now gone on this side. And I'm quite happy with that. So now I've just got to do the other side, but I'll be doing that side off camera. Right, the transfers have now been applied onto this side, and so all the transfers are now on. Well, all the ones I wanted to use anyway. One thing I will just say, this one here, this number 5 here, that actually broke into 2 pieces. So what I had to do was, I had to put the transfer, those bits on separately. I had to slide them off separately onto the side of the tank there, but also I had to bung 2 pieces together up really close and simply work them back together again to make it less obvious that those 2 pieces had snapped in half. And to be honest with you, it's worked really well, because you can't see at all that they came into 2 pieces. So I'm really pleased with that. Also, another thing I want to talk about, these white lines here, just underneath all these numbers here, they can be a little bit of a pest if you don't cut them off properly. And because with that particular transfer there, I actually had a bit of the white line underneath it. So what I did was, I got a needle, which is just here, and very lightly scraped it off. I have not damaged the paintwork in the process, which is a good thing, but it was a little bit of a worrying thing to do, to be honest. But it's sorted out now. The transfers are now gone on. So now we need to glue on the lettering. Okay, so the lettering is now being glued on. The reason why I used 2 cocktail sticks is because I had a bit of a game getting the lettering on with just the one. So that was the reason why I used 2, to help me get it on the side of the tanks a bit better. And I'm very happy with how that's turned out. And I will show you the other side as well. But this now means that the body shell, for the most part, is now done. There are still a few little things that need to be done, but that's detail related. The repaint is pretty much done. There's the other side. And so overall, I'm very pleased with how that's turned out. And it's hard to spot as well that that was glued on. So I'm really pleased with that. I'm well happy. So the next thing to do now is to focus on the chassis, because I do have a few things in mind to do with that. Right, it's now the next day, as you can tell, because it's now sunny outside. And so, we are now going to move on to the chassis, so we can put the body to one side. Because for the most part it is pretty much done now. Like I said, just a few little things to do, but we need to move on to the chassis now. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the side rods. Now I'm sure you're thinking at this point, why? Because they are, well, in a way you could argue they technically already are painted. I mean, I know when it comes to steam locos the side rods are silver, but not with the Panniers in the NCB livery, because the side rods on the locomotives in this livery were not actually silver. If you look at the photos of them, they were actually painted red. Now I could leave the side rods silver, I mean, don't get me wrong, they do look nice like that, but to make it more accurate to the real locomotive in this livery, I'm going to paint the side rods red. And so I've chose Humbrol 174 Signal Red, which is the correct shade of red to use because I colour matched the red side rods on the internet. Didn't take me long to do it, to be honest. I have actually got two paints here. They're both Signal Red, but I've got this one which is acrylic, and this one is enamel. And to be honest, I'm thinking I'm going to be using this one, to be honest, but I've got this one as a spare, just in case, because I might be able to find some other uses for these paints in the future, not just on these side rods. But I have been out and just bought these from Hobbycraft, because I wasn't going to buy them off the internet, because it'd take a while to get it, so I thought I just might as well go out and buy them straight away, so I can finish off this project. Okay, so what I've done is I have used masking tape to mask the wheels off. Now there's a very good reason why I've done this. It's to stop paint getting on the wheels, basically. I mean, I know I do have some small brushes, but you've still got to be careful that you don't get any paint on the wheels, because I don't want to have to use brush cleaner or anything like that to just simply remove paint off. Because it's not like the Revel paint where you can just simply wipe it off. Because with the Humbrol stuff it's actually a bit more harder to wipe off. Especially because with the Humbrol paint it would leave a mark if you was to wipe it off to where it has been. It's not really the case using the Revel paints. But that's the reason why I've pretty much masked the wheels off, because I don't want paint to get on them. Which is a good idea because it will protect the wheels from getting paint on them. And there was no way I was going to use the Maskol for this, because it wouldn't be sensible to use the Maskol, to be honest. Because you've got the risk of Maskol running into the gears under the wheels and clogging it all up, and then you're in for a nightmare basically, and then it would ruin the chassis. So if you're going to mask off the wheels to protect them from paint, masking tape is the better option. Okay, so the masking tape has now been pulled off and the paint is now dry, and I'm very happy with how this has turned out. As you can see, not a single bit of red paint on the wheels anywhere, so that masking tape has worked very well. So now we'll move on to the next bit. And so now we are going to paint the cab interior, which in this case the interior for the cab is fixed onto the chassis. Now I don't necessarily have paint the detail in the cab, but I might as well do it because it will give the model a bit more detail, and why not, being as the chassis is currently separated from the body. So it will be nice to do. But I'm not going to talk through the paints I'm going to use, because you'll see me using which specific paints I'm going to use on camera anyway. So let's get cracking with the cab interior. Okay, so the cab interior has now been painted, and on the whole I'm rather happy with how it's come out. It certainly is worth doing because it adds to the detail of the model, in my opinion. And that's what's good about having cab interiors that's not painted. You can paint them yourself if you want to, which is quite fun to do. So the chassis is now done. Just a few little things now, and then this project will be finished. Okay, so there's just two last things that need to be done now, and then this model is finished. So, just move these paint pots out of the way. So, what we're going to do now is to concentrate on a few little bit of details to add to the model, which is going to be lamp irons. Now, something that I'm sure you'll all notice with the Bachmann Pannier tanks, the 5700s and the 8750s, which basically the 8750 is technically a 5700, excuse me, which the 8750 is a subclass of the 5700. Now, these models don't have any lamp irons. They do have some on the bunker, but on the running board and on top of the smoke box and along there, the model doesn't have those lamp irons. I mean, that doesn't make this a bad model. It's still a good model, I think, and to be honest, I do find it quite fun that you can add your own lamp irons on, because it's fun to do. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding my own lamp irons, and to do that I'm going to be using the good old-fashioned product, staples, which you can use to make lamp irons, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, so to make lamp irons from staples, it's pretty straightforward. The first thing you have to do is to pull off a staple. I've already done that off camera, so I've just simply pulled the rest of it off, basically. And then using a pair of cutters or pliers, we cut it into two pieces, and then it's just a case of then cutting it down to size, really. To an appropriate size to use on the model. There's a bit of a staple then stuck to the cutters. So that is pretty much how you make a lamp iron from a staple. And so I'm going to make several of these, and then we simply paint them up after that. And then you just simply glue them onto the model. You can get ones made from brass from various manufacturers, but you can make them from staples, so why not make them from staples? Because I think it's quite fun to do. Okay, so I've made the lamp irons from staples, all been cut to size as you can see, and so now I'm going to paint them up. Right, so I've stood all the lamp irons up on this piece of blue tack so I can paint them more easily, and so I'm going to paint them up using Revel Matte Black. Okay, so the lamp irons are now all painted, and so now I'm going to glue them onto the model. And the glue I'm going to be using is this, Yoo-hoo, which you can use it for pretty much almost anything, to be honest. It's a very good glue to use. It's like a glue gel type of thing. And so I'll be using this to glue on the lamp irons. Okay, so for this you only need a very small amount of this stuff to use. And to put it on, I shall be using a cocktail stick. Which I have just here. I have zoomed in on the camera so you can see a bit better. Let's just zoom out a bit slightly, there we go. Okay, so first of all, in fact actually I'm going to put the lid back on every time I've used it, because otherwise it's just going to keep on running. Out the tube. That's the first lamp iron, which I've got here. I'm going to glue on to the top of the smoke box. I'm going to need the tweezers for this. There we go. So that's one on. Now for the next one. So we're going to glue the next ones onto the running board now. Again, I'm using the tweezers. Actually, this one might just be able to... No, I'll use the tweezers for it. The only thing is though that because of how hot it is, this glue is actually drying a bit quicker than what it normally would. There's another one on. I need to glue on the next one. might try and attempt pulling this one on without the... No, I'm going to use the tweezers. There we go. I'm going to show you the last one, gluing onto the running board. Then I'll glue the other two on, that I'm going to glue on at the side here, off camera. There we are. Those lamp irons are now glued on, so I'm going to glue the rest off camera. Right, the lamp irons have now been glued on. And I must say, I am very happy with how they've turned out. Oh, a bit out of focus there. So, now I'm going to fix the body back onto the chassis. Then there's just one more thing to do after that, and then this project is finished. And now, for the finishing touch, I'm now going to glue a real coal load into the bunker. Just smearing some PVA glue. On top of the moulded load there. And just very gently. Scatter it on top. And then using some dropper glue just simply go on top. And if it does feel like that, no problemo. Just use a cotton bud to simply take care of it. It doesn't ruin the paintwork or anything either. And so now we leave that to dry. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Project Pannier is now complete. And I am very happy with how this has turned out. It's been quite an ambitious project for me to do, and I'm very happy with how it's turned out. I really am. There's no other word to say for it, to be honest. And I do have another project planned for the future involving a pannier tank, but that's to come in the future. It will involve another repaint of a pannier tank, which, unless you've been on Twitter and Facebook, you will know what that project is going to be. If you aren't on either of those sites and would like to know what it is, you know what, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to leave it secret for the time being. I might add some fire irons on the back at a later date. But otherwise, this project is complete. I've done everything I wanted to do. I just can't express enough how pleased I am at how it's turned out. So I'm just showing you the model in its entirety now. So that pretty much brings an end to this video. There's not really much else for me to say. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed watching it, and I'll see you again soon. But until then, this is Class 47 Peter signing off. I hope to see you again soon. Take care.